Blessed day, soul family. Welcome back. It is April 1st. No April Fool's joke for you all today. Um, Used to be more of a jokester, not so much anymore. So today, with Wellness Wednesday, we're looking at original chi, singularity, and trying to find the Tao. Trying to find the Tao. Or find the feeling for the Tao. Why, for what reason, and even if we strived for it, how would we know when we are there? So, because it's also the first of the month, we have a new calendar image. And the topic for today comes from the calendar poetry. So let's see what it says, and then we're going to go to the book. After that, then we'll look at all of this as theory, but then we're going to see how it comes into our everyday lives, our body, our movement, our lifestyle, and application, essentially, because we want to use this for our everyday lives. So, the origin of a human life is nothing else but the original chi, yuan chi. If you know where the original chi resides, then you are not too far from the great Tao. Lao Tzu said, millions of objects, millions of lives are all embracing singularity, the Bao Yi, and they live. There is no object which does not conceal the yin and embrace the yang. There's no object that contains both yin and yang. And this is the songs of embracing singularity and embryonic breathing. We talked about yin and yang and how yin and yang are relative. We need to remember that the myriad of things, when yin and yang continue to break down, we have the myriad of 10,000 things all having the same source. And excuse me. What happens first is from singularity, from Wuji, we have one initial movement, right? That movement starts to bring about yin and yang. Yin and yang start to form. We talked about the Sishang, the four phenomena, four phases yesterday of lesser yang, growth, maturity, greater yang peaks, and then lesser yin, the death cycle, and greater yin. When you finally have yin and yang, you have those four phases. Let's see, I believe I have this still available. That's gonna be one of our new ones. Here it is. Okay, so here we have within the yang cycle, right here, this half moon, here the yin cycle, this second half moon, remember two is one, one is two. The four phases, one, two, three, four, sashang, which comes from yin and yang splitting. But today we're going to look, interestingly, at the process, because we've talked about the Tai Chi process, and we've talked about how Tai Chi gives us the movement out of Wu Ji. Tai Chi gives us the movement out of Wu Ji. So let's read a couple of sentences from Dr. Yang's articles, and then we'll go to his book. Remember, Wang Zhongyue said, "What is Tai Chi? It is generated from Wu Ji, and it is a pivotal function of movement and stillness. It is the mother of yin and yang. When it moves, it divides, and at rest, it reunites. From this, it is known that Tai Chi is not Wu Ji and also not yin and yang. Instead, an inclination of the natural pivotal function, which makes the Wu Ji derive into yin and yang. So this kind of was pretty profound for me a couple of weeks ago. Reunites at rest, it reunites. So the thing about yin and yang is that we see from the image that yin and yang is always splitting and breaking down, but what we don't see is how it comes together, how things come back together. And that's important because that's essentially what we're doing when we go into our mind body moving meditation practices. We're bringing two back to one. We're bringing these two back to the origin, um, back to one. In the physical body, what does that look like, right? That means in the physical body, you're bringing the lower energy center and the upper energy center into harmony and balance. Okay. So let's go to the book, page 192. So this is from Embryonic Breathing. That's where all the poetry comes from. And so I believe there's new publication of this book, which looks like this one, but I have this cover. So I'm reading from this book, and the quote is long, and Dr. Young's commentary on it is long as well. At the end of all of it, this is what he says. This is what's important. In order to keep your spirit and the chi in their residences, you must know how to embrace singularity. That means the singleness of thought, does not have any emotional disturbances or desires. Remember that regulating the emotional mind is part of regulating the mind, the five regulations: body, breath, mind, chi, and spirit. Regulating the mind involves regulating the emotional mind. So singleness points to the singularity. What is singularity? We'll look more deeply into that. But singularity of thought does not have any emotional disturbances or desires. So the book about embryonic breathing and the strategy about embryonic breathing is about finding the energy that was present when you were in your mother's womb. That energy that was bountiful, that was abundant, and that even kept you breathing because you weren't breathing oxygen, is what we point to as original chi. Original chi, when we now grow out of the womb and into our human bodies, original chi points to the kidneys because original essence, the essence, the three treasures, Jing, Qi, Shen. Jing is the essence, and that comes from our kidneys in the physical body. But that essence is also connected to our spirit and Qi, right? More physical to ethereal. So the Jing is the physical representation of the original spirit. And original spirit is what's abundant and bountiful within this embryonic context. And when we go into embryonic breathing, we're going to psychologically the place where we are a clean slate and we have no social conditioning. We're breathing wise going to a place where we weren't breathing oxygen and we were breathing from the environment of the womb, right? We essentially breathe through our umbilical cord, through the abdomen. So look at the connection between abdominal breathing in our everyday lives and the importance of abdominal breathing. And then embryonic breathing takes us back to the place, to the time when we were first one original cell, when zygote forms, when the sperm and the egg be two become one life form. And so it can be argued that that first cell that we were before it split off into two, four, eight, what have you, now, um, where is that physical cell? Because if physical cells are continuing to die off, then that means that we're shedding skin continuously, constantly coming into new cells, coming into new skin. That means what part of us actually sustains as we're living our lives from birth to death? What part of us actually sustains? Because it's not the physical matter. If our nails are growing, our nails are dead cells. And if we're um, getting rid of eliminating waste through our pee and our poop, and if we're eliminating um, free radicals and toxins and what have you, sweating out toxins also, our hair falling out, what remains from us? What remains of us that continues to present in this physical world? Okay. And then finally, embryonic breathing brings us to the slow, calm, still, original place, center, balance, home of ourselves. And embryonic breathing, according to my teacher, is the original Qigong by which we want all of our Qigong to blossom from. Okay. So let's look into these concepts of Yuan Qi, original Qi, and singularity Bao Yi, because I really like the terminology and the a little bit of the what the research provided. We're going to continue looking into more of the quote or the poetry as we go into the month of April. So here's what I want to share with you because this is going to be it was pretty powerful and revealing for me, and then we'll wrap it up. So in Chinese philosophy and internal arts, Yuan Qi and Bao Yi represent two pillars of returning to the source, the primordial substance, and the meditative method of unification. Yuan Qi, the primordial Qi in ancient documents, is defined as the foundational energy of the universe and the human body. So there's a cosmological origin according to the Hu Yan Yanzi in the second century. The universe began as a great void that produced Yuan Qi. The original energy was a homogeneous, uncharacterized unity. So that would be um, this one small image here. It was homogeneous, uncharacterized unity. As it began to move, it divided. The lighter parts rose to form the heaven, and the denser parts sank to form the earth. Heaven chi and earth chi. Human application now, though, in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, and Qigong, Yuan Qi is the prenatal Qi, the pre-birth Qi. embryonic qi, inherited from parents and conception, and as I said, stored in the kidneys and distributed through the triple burner, the sun jiao. And it acts as the battery for all physiological functions, the prenatal qi. In ancient texts, the person who circulates original qi can live a long life. The person who can guard the one, it will never be exhausted. The life will be immortal, essentially. Now, let's look at Bao Yi. So the term Bao Yi literally means to embrace the one. In this context of the ancient documents, the one is effectively singularity. And this is the singularity of the mind, the point of non-duality before the universe split into yin and yang. But it's also the point where we wake up before our body starts to get up. Our mind and body are still encased into uh, more of a singularity, if you will, and they're not divided into our thoughts and our body. And then we're finally doing this and that and the other and going this way and that way in our everyday lives. And then you could say coming into sleep, our sleep cycle, we're coming back into singularity. So Lao Tzu said the primary source for this term, Bao Yi, can you keep the spirit and embrace the one without departing from it? Here, the one is the state of the Tao manifested in the physical body. Again, meditating on the one. In Zhuangzi's fasting of the mind, he describes a similar state through the Xin Zai. It suggests that when you stop listening with the ears and start listening with the breath, you can reach a state of emptiness where the one remains. This is the meditative singularity where individual consciousness merges with the universal yuan qi. The universal conscious or the individual consciousness merges with the universal yuan qi. And that brings us to our poetry for April when we're saying if you know where the original chi resides, you're not too far from the great Tao. Millions of objects are all embracing singularity and they live. There is no one object which does not conceal yin and yang. The origin of human life is nothing else but original chi. And so if we can listen with the ears, if we can listen with the breath and not with the ears, then we can reach that state of oneness where the individual consciousness merges with the universal yuan qi. That's where you're approaching the Tao. And that's where we come into deep meditative states. We talked about on Monday the theta state and the semi-sleep state. And so how that is the semi-sleep state is foundational, critical for Qigong training. And then when we get to deep meditation, here we're seeing how semi-sleep theta state brings us into the our consciousness and the agency of our consciousness to approach the Tao, which is healing. It's the herb of life. It's deep rest and digest. And for me, it's the herb of healing, embodied herb of healing, almost like embodying the Tao. Finally, in Neo-Taoist texts, the one is identified with essence, Jing, and it's representing solitary awareness or singular focus. And in contrast to the two, which represents spirit, and that involves the duality and the relational perception. Therefore, embracing the one is the practice of pulling awareness back from the two into singularity, into the one. And that's what this image is, not that, it's this one, but within the body here. Embracing the one is the practice of pulling awareness back from the external to where the mind, body, and are not in coherence and bringing them back into one. That is facilitated by yin and yang cycles. Yesterday in Tai Chi Tuesday, I went through and really slowed down and laid out the yin and yang of Tai Chi movement, where the four phases, Shang, are represented in movement as when a movement in Tai Chi, for example, we were looking at the Fair Lady weaves a shuttle. The movement starts in the center, right? Phase one, phase two as a greater yang, yang peaks, and then lesser yin starts to enter. And each Tai Chi movement has this template, method, and rhythm, which also allows us to get closer to the Tao. And that's the mystical nature and the mystical doorway to the meditative components and benefits of Tai Chi as a moving meditation practice. So the singularity point is the one often visualized as the point of high density singularity located in the lower dantian, or the spiritual residence, the energy, spiritual energy center, these very condensed energy centers. Because when energy can be condensed, but energy can also be dispersed. We have the capacity to regulate our energy, to condense it or to disperse it, right? Again, to yin aspect, contract, or yang aspect, manifest and grow. That's the bloom. That's the springtime. So we practice by embracing the one, condensing scattered postnatal energy back into singular prenatal state, returning to the root. And finally, the mechanism, when the mind is held at a state of singularity, the consumption of yuan qi stops. You stop burning the original qi. And in this stillness, the inner fire is kindled, allowing the practitioner to refine essence into qi and qi into spirit. Finally, let's finish with the Qigong movement principles and see how they relate here. The Qigong movement principles, this is in my book, Yin Yang Tai Chi, which is available at yinyangtaichi.org. The Qigong principles, which are the movements, which are the principles that we bring into Tai Chi and any Qigong set, whether it be Tai Chi Qigong, whether it be medical Qigong, whether it be springtime Qigong, whether it be for all seasons Qigong. This is how we want to approach. We want to promote relaxation. We want to coordinate deep abdominal breathing. We want to move the whole body as a unit. We want to steer with the center, the physical center, and we want to keep slow, smooth, continuous breathing and movement. And to really deepen the feeling, we want to close the eyes. The deepest feeling that we can get is approaching the Tao. So even whether it's sitting meditation or moving meditation, we want to try to approach the Tao. That's where we bring sitting meditation, moving meditation back to singularity, back to the one origin, back to one. But it's only if we can sense it and feel it, if we that we can satisfy our urge, because this is our for me, this is my pursuit for truth through the body, through the movement, through the sense, the felt sense, which is also a journey. The more that you interface and engage with it, the more that you build the deeper feeling, going back to nature gong fu, going back to the gong fu of internal vision. That's the path and the pursuit that I'm on, and most of us are attracted to those who pursue these practices. So let me know what you think. And that's the wellness, the deep wellness of the Tao for today here on Wellness Wednesday. I felt like we kind of got pretty deep. Let me know what you think. Finding the Tao with the original Qi on this 2026 calendar series of the Martial Mystic. So until next time, may your Qi flow smoothly and remember to embrace the Wu.